Let us say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right, thank you. Once again, we thank each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively for the co-creation of this interaction and the allowance of this transmission this day of your time. This transmission has been titled The People's Choice to allow us to explore new ideas, new topics that we have not either explored before at all with you or have not gone into great depth with. So, we can begin by allowing the vote to happen once the topics are read. Nania? Now, this will be by a show of hands. First, the 3 topics will be read, then read again one at a time with a show of hands to decide which one you shall vote shall be the topic. This will be a popular vote, not an electoral college vote. So, a little political humor for your planet. Please begin, Nania, with reading the topics that are available to vote on.
So,
Number 1.
Number 1 is the spectrum of fear. So this is all about the idea of the very different types of fear that you can experience on this planet and how to respond to them. Number 2 is artificial intelligence and how we're evolving in that direction in terms of understanding how to integrate with it and how to use it. And so a deeper exploration of our relationship to it and how that's going to change our lives as we expand as a civilization.
And number 3.
Number 3 is understanding grief. The idea that when we have loss through death or other reasons, we go through a lot of different stages. We have a lot of different experiences with it. It's a very powerful thing that you go through here on Earth. So Bashar will be explaining, if we choose that one, he'll be explaining how to understand that, how to shorten it, how to shift it, many different aspects of grief.
All right, so the spectrum of fear, artificial intelligence, and discussions about grief. So, read them off one at a time. Get a show of hands.
Okay, here we go. Spectrum of fear. All right, let's try it this way. Who doesn't want spectrum of fear? Okay, maybe about 10 people don't want it. So, okay. The next one is artificial intelligence. 6, 7, 8, 9. Still about 10 on that one. And finally, understanding grief. Just a few.
All right. So you have your vote?
Yeah, it was pretty overwhelming in terms of this audience about the spectrum of fear.
Yes, we thought it might be.
I'm scared.
That's somewhere on the spectrum. Now, before we go deeply into it, if you, those who attended last night's transmission, remember we were talking about the idea of sensing and predicting probabilities that exist at the time the prediction is made, yes? And so we took a reading of what would happen tonight. Nania, would you remove the envelope from under the stool? You may wish to open it and pass out the handouts to people, because the only download we knew we would need would be the spectrum of fear.
You are so psychic.
We are just reading probabilities in your energy. Let's make sure everyone has a handout so they can follow along. Is there anyone who does not have a handout? All right. Nania?
Yes.
You have one as well?
Yes.
All right. Then, one at a time, from the bottom up, allow yourself, Nania, to please read them out loud one at a time.
From the bottom
from the bottom up, because that's where it begins. It starts with self-awareness.
Basic self-awareness.
That lays the foundation. That allows you to understand yourself, to have a reflection of yourself, to create consciousness within you. And then
A plus, so awareness plus survival instinct.
So once you become self-aware in physical reality, the body consciousness, all of this now, these first ones are in the body consciousness spectrum, sort of an automatic function that comes along with body consciousness in having an incarnation. And the first representation of this energy would be what you will experience as survival instinct. And then
A plus survival awareness plus survival instinct plus L, which is learned and accepted parameters.
yes, so the limitations that are necessary for you to experience a physical reality set up a certain kind of barrier, border, parameters for you to follow, keeps you in a certain format or a certain focus. And the more that you explore this with a minimal amount of survival instinct, you gain what is simply called experience in living in physical reality. Now, these are the automatic functions, but now it goes into what we will call the intentional or the rational levels of fear and how you use them. So next, above that line,
Okay, and it's interesting how they're additive. So you have
they are all additive, yes.
you have automatic plus self-awareness.
Yes.
Or
The automatic self-awareness
survival instinct
plus survival instinct plus the limitations that you learn
plus experience.
and experience, this all becomes cumulative. And one builds on the other to create the next level.
Is that the caution, alertness?
The idea now is caution. Now, this is the intentional, rational level. When you have used your survival instinct and your self-awareness and the parameters that you've learned about existing in physical reality, now the first level, and again, not to say that this is fear as you understand it or as you commonly use that term, but it is an expression, a very low vibrational level of it where you become simply cautious about things. So you don't necessarily just see a spinning blade and go running into it because you have learned the limitations of what happens in physical reality when you do that, or simply go running across the street and get hit by a car. You become simply naturally somewhat cautious so you can navigate physical reality in a way that is protective of your survival instinct. And then, above that,
Should I go through all the additives or just
no.
just do the added one?
You already now understand that this is all cumulative. Each level adds to the next, to the next, to the next, to create the next level above it.
Oh, I see. So now when you add caution to
Yes.
that mix, you end up with wariness.
Now you start to pick up on the idea that sometimes in your culture you have called bad vibes, where you simply feel that something may not be quite aligned here. You start being sensitive to the idea. You gain enough experience to become sensitive to the idea and be able to pick up on the idea that something may be out of alignment with your preferences in life, may not necessarily be to your benefit. And so you start becoming wary of certain things. Again, this is not necessarily automatically a negative. There is both a negative and a positive mix in this level of intentional and rational fear. But wariness can serve you, again, so that you can pay attention to the signs, or what you might call in your reality red flags, and know when somebody is telling you or a situation is telling you that you need to be cautious, you need to be wary, so that you can move into this with intention and your eyes open and alertness and navigate your way through this in a beneficial way for yourself by applying positive definitions. And now, cumulatively, above wariness, we come to what you classically call typical fear. Yes?
So this is the one where once you add in wariness,
Yes.
you end up with fear, right?
Yes, but now you have the idea that this can also be the result of positive things, negative things, and it can be mitigated by more positive definitions. But this is where fear can also be protective in a positive way by keeping you away from things that would actually be damaging to you, detrimental to you. Or it can be negative based on fear-based negative definitions that are not necessarily to your benefit. This is still within the level of the intentional and rational levels and expressions of cumulative energies that create fear, because you can still do something about it with your consciousness intentionally. So you get to use fear, if you wish, in a positive way by making fear your friend and knowing that fear in the positive sense, being defined that way, is now simply a messenger knocking on your door to tell you that you might have fear-based beliefs in your unconscious mind that you're unaware of, and it's helping put you in touch with that fact so that you can illuminate those things, find out what those definitions are in your unconscious mind, bring them to your conscious attention, and let them go if they're out of alignment with who you prefer to be, so that you can expand yourself in a positive way. And so on this level, this is the last level where you can use fear in a positive way by recognizing the negative definitions that have created the negative experience of fear within you. But now, above that, when you accumulate to the next level, you're actually crossing another threshold, and you're going into the irrational energies, where thought patterns become dissociative, where your energy becomes less, in a sense, controllable. You go into the idea, crossing that threshold, of paranoia. So now this is the first irrational idea. And of course, we understand the old joke on your planet, you're not being paranoid if somebody is actually after you. But this still is down in the level below that threshold, where you're actually making a rational recognition that you might actually be in physical harm or danger. When we're talking about the idea of crossing that line now into paranoia, we are talking about an irrational energy where now the negative beliefs that are now prevalent, wholly negative beliefs, are now taking over in a sense and allowing you to imagine things that are not necessarily true, blowing things up out of proportion and imagining things that are really not representative of anything going on outside you, but are more representative of the things going on inside you that you do not trust about yourselves. Panic now, being the next level that you accumulate, allows you to experience what you recognize as phobias, where you really have seemingly a completely uncontrollable paranoia about things in specific terms that you are now using as a symbol to represent the negative belief system. This goes into panic. And then, yes, when you add the panic to the mix, now you can go into terror. This starts really breaking down your thought process, any kind of rational experience at all. And when you cross that threshold, you then can go into the idea that terror can actually literally frighten you to death. Because the idea now is the survival instinct kicks in so strongly with terror that if you cannot find a rational way out of it, if you cannot bring in and mitigate that experience with some positive definition, the survival instinct will tell you that there is no other way out, and therefore the only door would be, in a sense, to survive in spirit, to leave the physical reality. So these are the formulas, the cumulative formula of energy that is called the spectrum of fear. You follow?
Yes, I almost feel like we need to reiterate it a little bit. Now, we haven't gone to death, right? We haven't done that one yet.
Death. Well, that's death.
Oh, that's death. But that's survival of spirit, it says.
Survival of spirit is natural because there is no way the spirit can die. So death is death of the physical in order to survive, because the physical at that point does not find that there is any way for it to survive. It cannot find a way out. It cannot find a way to mitigate the terror. Therefore, if it doesn't find a way to mitigate the terror, it will die of fright. The physical consciousness will completely dissociate and will die of fright.
So like people that are being tortured and stuff like that, and those terrible experiences, how do they stay alive?
Well, again, you have to look at the spectrum and understand that they may be applying certain other perspectives and definitions into what they're experiencing, and they're not always necessarily terrified. They may, in fact, be defiant. You understand?
Yes.
So they're looking for a way to find a positive belief system that can allow them to survive. Their survival instinct is helping them search for something that will give them the strength to survive. If they find it, then they will simply become defiant, not terrified. They will not be frightened to death.
So I'm just trying to grasp this whole thing because it's the first time I'm seeing it too. So the first level where you have automatic neutral body consciousness.
Yes.
That includes all the physical levels of fear? Is that the idea? Or is it the intentional and irrational?
No. You will feel fear physically on the different levels, but we're just saying it starts with this neutral level that imbues you with a physical sensation that equates to or translates to the concept of survival instinct.
So similar to the idea of when a baby is born, they have a natural fear of falling. They have a fear of loud noises.
Survival instinct.
So that's where you're automatically programmed to be able to experience fear.
You are exploring with the survival instinct to determine the limitations, the parameters that define physical reality. You are gaining experience. But this is all, in a sense, on a relatively unconscious level. It's just in the body consciousness.
So all of these ones here that were self-awareness.
Yes.
And then your basic survival instinct.
Yes.
Awareness of self-imposed limitations. So that's like you start to become aware that you have physical limitations. Is that the idea?
This is, don't touch the stove, it burns. You are learning your environment. That's a limitation to keep you healthy, that you learn through experience.
And then experience is understanding these things and applying them so that you...
Yes. You build your world out of those ideas, those parameters, as to what is beneficial and what is not on that level.
And is this how the physical body actually evolves in its exploration of fear?
Yes.
It starts out on the physical level, understanding fear from the survival instinct.
Yes.
And then it moves into the second level, which is this is fear, wariness, and caution, which are...
Yes. Caution, wariness, and fear going
These are
upward.
mental states then at this point.
This is now awareness through experience of what works for you. Yes. The more experience you gain, the more you can use fear in a positive way to determine what works for you, what is and is not in alignment with what you prefer to experience and who you prefer to be. That's why these are still intentional and rational levels of fear.
So it's still rational because you're processing the experience and understanding
how the experience benefits or doesn't benefit you.
So like when people inherit fears from their parents...
Yes.
Or their society.
Yes.
Is that in this level?
Yes, it's in the fear level, and it can be in the caution or wariness level, because again, as we said, in the fear level, you get to examine what belief systems have been part of your growth experience that may not necessarily have anything to do with the ones you need to keep.
So when we're following our passion and fears come up, this is the level at which they start coming up?
Yes. And now you can re-identify and define them in ways that work for you, such as the example we gave of making fear your friend, that it is letting you know you have something within you as a definition that doesn't work for you, and therefore you're using fear in a positive way to let go of things that are out of alignment with your true self that you may have picked up along the road of gaining experience in physical reality.
So it's at this level, this is where we start redefining our thoughts around the fear that we're experiencing and exploring it and starting to transform it, right? And then you move into the next level, which is the actual, true, irrational fear.
Yes, this is where you allow the negative belief systems to become predominant, and you go into irrationality. And therefore, the amplification of the predominant negative belief systems, adding their energy to this formula, creates the idea of irrational fears that then create apparent difficulty in bringing in more positive belief systems to mitigate them.
This is when you feel like you're losing your mind, right?
Yes.
And you don't know what's true. You don't know what's real.
Yes.
You think that people are trying to hurt you or
Yes.
something, and they're not really doing it. You start projecting your own
Correct.
fears onto other people.
Correct.
Okay. And then the death one is when there's no ability to resolve.
Where you have brought yourself to a place where you've painted yourself into such a corner, you have no ability, no view, no vision of any possible resolution.
So that's a complete loss of hope.
Yes.
Does that happen a lot on our planet?
How many people die? How many people commit suicide?
Okay, so that's more like where you've gotten to the point that your irrational fear is so out of control that it literally kills you.
Yes, and that means you can actually just drop dead, or you can actually take your life. Or have someone else do it for you in a negative way. There are obviously positive versions of choosing to die. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the idea of the irrational fears building to such a fever pitch that you simply find there is simply no other exit, no way back. There is only one door, and that door is called death. Or, for some people, insanity, where they simply check out to the point where they are not experiencing the reality at all anymore that they believe was responsible for their present condition. In a sense, it's a kind of death, because you become something that is really not the person you started out to be at all, and experience reality completely through a dissociative state. So it's a death of the original personality. Whether that physically happens or not is not the issue. It's the death of the original personality as an escape route.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the horror movies they show where people can't scream or something like that, and they just die, you know?
Yes. Dying of fright is a real thing.
Wow.
Your body will shut down. Your heart will stop. Your mind will go blank. You'll exit. You'll escape.
So all those people they put in asylums back in the 1920s and everything,
Yes.
they were in that state where
Well,
they
not
had-
all of them.
but a lot of them.
Some of them, yes. Because again, remember that back in those times, you had different definitions about what constituted the idea of insanity. And they were not all truly insane. They were just put upon by the mores of society that didn't buy into what those people were experiencing in their lives. Now, some of them, when they were put in those situations, might have eventually gone insane by being put there, but that doesn't mean they were all insane when they started.
But it's also one of those things where when you see that level of insanity expressed over so many beings simultaneously, you wonder what's going on, you know, why that happens to us. So this
Well, now
is
you have the
now we have-
spectrum of fear. We have now delivered the formula of the spectrum of fear. You can see how it accumulates, what adds to what to create the next level. So this is something you can absorb and ponder in your own time if you wish, or you can ask a question about it when you come up. It's up to you. But you can start with your regular discussions and questions if you wish. I will say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right, first and foremost, we thank each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively for the co-creation of this interaction and the allowance of this transmission in this way. Each and every time you allow us to interact with your civilization like this, it affords us an opportunity to learn that many more perspectives within the multidimensional crystal of all that is. So we thank you for the gift of your sharing. We would like to begin this transmission with the following idea: using the tools. We have, over time, for the past 30 of your years, shared with you many ideas, many tools that you can use based on the nature of, the structure of existence. And these tools, when used in alignment with the nature and structure of existence, will allow you more conscious manifestation, more conscious awareness of the fact that you are creating your reality, more conscious control over exactly how to allow yourself to align with the flow of creation in order to experience your physical lives in the most joyful way possible, in the most harmonious way possible. However, sometimes in our interactions with many of you, we realize that while you may have in your minds the information of the tools we have shared with you, it is a very different thing to have the information, to know the information from the actual application of the information in your reality. It is important always that the application of these tools, these ideas, these concepts that we and others similar to us share with all of you at this time be actually grounded in your physical reality through action, through actual physical application, because in creating a physical experience, you yourselves are saying that you want to have an experience of a process that allows you to discover new aspects, new perspectives of yourself, and in so doing, you will allow yourself to know that your physical experience is the expression of your spirit, expression of your soul's journey, the expression of your spiritual investigation of yourself. And so physical action acts like a commitment, like a grounding, like a connection that demonstrates that you know you are in alignment with creation, reflects to creation that you are willing to align with it. It is all well and good to keep these ideas in your head, all well and good to understand the information intellectually, but it is a very different thing, and you create a very different effect in your life when you actually learn how to appropriately apply these tools in your physical reality. We have talked about many tools, such as the understanding of what we call the 5 laws of existence, and the understanding of the tool of acting on your highest excitement, that 3-part formula that allows for excitement to begin to open up and function synchronistically in your life as a complete kit. The idea of the 5 laws is simply that you exist, which means that if you exist now, you always will. You may change form, but you will always exist. Your point of view is unique and will always exist, because if you didn't exist, all that is would not be all that it could be. So you are valuable, you are worthy, you are deserving of that existence. And to go into states of unworthiness, lack of deservability, in essence, is to argue with creation about your value. Please believe us, if you were not absolutely crucial to the idea of all that is being all that is, you would not exist. It doesn't make mistakes, so you cannot be a mistake in any way, shape, or form. Thus, when you allow yourself to stop arguing with creation about your worth and start aligning with the idea that you are in existence for a reason, then you can experience that existence more in alignment with creation, with the flow of creation, and allow yourself the benefit of that relationship, of that positively oriented relationship with creation. Law number 2 is simply that everything is here and now. That time and space, in a sense, are your projections, your illusions that allow you to experience the process of discovering yourself from another point of view. The 3rd law is that the one is all, the all are one, which means that separation is an illusion as well. Everything is the same one thing from a different point of view. So you are all that is, experiencing itself as an aspect of itself, as another point of view of itself, as another perspective of itself, so that it can experience itself from all the possible perspectives that it can, and know and discover itself in that way. Because you see, The structure itself never really changes. But your experience of it, your point of view of it, does. And that's what expands creation. The fourth law is what you put out is what you get back, which simply means whatever frequency you operate on, whatever definitions you hold to be true, generate a particular energetic vibration that you radiate. And because physical reality is just an illusion, is really nothing more than a mirror, it reflects back to you the ideas that you are giving off, the beliefs that you are holding to be true. And so when you experience your physical reality, if you find that it requires, in your opinion, some adjustment, the first thing to adjust is the definitions within you, because the definitions, what you believe to be true, what you define to be true, are the fundamental foundation of your experience of physical reality, and everything is built upon that. Emotions and feelings stem from something you believe to be true. You cannot have an emotion or a feeling about anything unless you have a definition of that thing first. So when you have emotions, when you have thoughts, when you have behaviors that you believe are out of alignment with who you prefer to be, you can trace those behaviors and trace those thoughts and trace those feelings back to what kind of a definition would have to exist in order to generate those kinds of feelings, those kinds of thoughts, those kinds of behaviors, and the consequential experience that stems therefrom. It all begins with the foundational belief and definition, in much the same way that building a house has to begin with a foundation, and everything else is on top of that. The emotions being the builders of the house, the thoughts being the building materials of the house, the behaviors being how you find living in that house, the quality of life in that house. So if you find that the house is a little bit stifling, if you find that it is falling apart, if you find in that sense that it's not being built in the way that you would prefer, go back to the blueprint, go back to the foundation, make the adjustments there, and everything else will follow suit. The fifth law is that everything changes except the first four laws. So things will always change, as we said. You will always be discovering a new idea, a new point of view, a new perspective of yourself. That's how creation expands, and that's the nature of it. The idea of your excitement is simply that what you call joy, what you call excitement, what you call passion, what you call happiness and creativity and love and peace and balance are your physical body's way of translating the frequency that is your true signature vibration, the core essence of your being. So anytime you're willing to use the three-part formula of acting on your excitement, you will be harmoniously aligned with the core nature of your being. And thus you will flow easily and not experience resistance in your life. The three-part formula is as follows. To act at every given moment that you can on the thing that contains the highest amount of excitement. Number two, to the best of your ability, taking it as far as you can until you can take it no further. Number three, with absolutely zero insistence or assumption as to what the outcome ought to look like or how you should get there. Because your physical mind has absolutely no way of knowing how it's actually really going to happen. So as long as you allow your physical mind to believe that it's in charge of knowing how something is supposed to happen, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. Because your physical mind is not designed to know how something is actually going to happen. Your physical mind is only designed to know what's happening right now, to experience it. That's what it's for. But the higher mind knows, the non-physical aspect of your being called the higher mind, the soul, the spirit, that knows how something can best happen to align with the theme you chose to explore in this life as a physical being. So let the higher mind do its job, let the physical mind do its job, let them work together in concert by following the formula of excitement that will allow you to experience excitement as the complete kit of tools that you need in your life. And what we mean by that is as follows. When you act on this formula every moment that you can, you are aligning like a compass needle to your true magnetic north, and that acts as a key to unlock the tools in the kit of excitement. And those tools essentially are this. You start to experience excitement in your life when you follow the formula as the driving engine of your life, the motivating force in your life. You experience it as the organizing principle of your life. You experience more synchronicity that brings things to you at exactly the right moment, the right place, the right time, with whom you exactly need to experience it with. It is the path of least resistance in your life. Because when you clear yourself of definitions that don't align with your true being, then you experience no resistance. You flow, glide effortlessly and smoothly and joyfully through life. It is the thread that connects to all other expressions of excitement in your life, because your excitement can be expressed in many different ways. And excitement and acting on it, whatever contains the highest amount of it at any given moment, lets you know that even though on the surface it may not seem to be connected to anything else you did that contained excitement, the excitement tells you that it is connected, not how it looks on the surface. You have a saying on your planet, don't judge a book by its cover. This is how it works. Follow the thread of excitement in something. Don't gauge that it's connected to other things by how it looks, because excitement can come in many forms, and it will take the path of least resistance to you to allow you to continue on that path of excitement. And sometimes that path of least resistance has to look very different than the path it took before, but it will find you. It's like electricity. It's like water. It will find you, as long as you are open to allowing it to come along the path of least resistance and don't insist that it must come in a certain way. That's your ego talking. That's your physical mind thinking it knows best. It does not. But when it works in concert with the higher mind, then you function as a whole person and can experience life in a more holistic way, instead of a segregated experience of details and compartmentalizations that makes it seem to be a very difficult thing to put that picture back together. Let yourself open up to the holistic idea that your higher mind will guide you like someone on a mountaintop who can see down and easily see the path you are walking through life and is telling you, go left, go right, go left, go straight, go left, go right. The physical mind, in ignoring that, will constantly fall into a bunch of holes or off a cliff. But when you pay attention to the higher mind's messages that come through synchronicity or by whatever method they may come, then you find that you are guided unerringly in the direction of the things you really want to experience that will allow you to become who you truly know yourself to be, allow you to experience more of your greater being, and allow you to function more holistically as a whole person. When you only rely on the physical mind's guidance in physical reality, you're only functioning as half a person, and that simply makes you, for lack of a better term, a half-wit. The other component of excitement, when you allow excitement to act as a complete kit, is that it acts as the reflecting mirror that reveals to you, in a variety of ways, the things within your unconscious mind that might actually be out of alignment with your true self, so that you can identify them, integrate them, bring them back into alignment, and expand your excitement in that way. So it is a very powerful kit that contains everything you need. It is complete. And that means, by definition, it leaves nothing out. Nothing at all. So when you understand the kit, when you understand the formula, when you understand the laws, when you understand how to look at creation and see the actual nature of it, the actual structure of it, you'll be able to use it to your advantage, to your benefit, differently than you're using it now. You do use it now. But if you're finding that there are things in your life that you don't prefer, it's simply that you are putting information into the mechanism that is negative because of the definitions you're holding on to, and so the mechanism can do nothing but give you a reflection of that negativity. It doesn't care what you choose. It is absolutely unbiased. It is completely and absolutely and totally balanced and fair. If you decide that you're going to have a negative belief system, the mechanism of creation simply says, okay, and reflects that to you. If you decide you're going to have a positive belief system, the mechanism of creation says, okay, and reflects that to you. It doesn't care what you choose. It doesn't have a mind of its own. It was designed to be completely and utterly neutral so that you could give life meaning. Without you giving life meaning, life has no automatic built-in meaning. The circumstances and situations you experience are simply neutral events, neutral props. You have the power. You've been given the free will. You've been given the ability to insert the meaning you believe is most true for you, and regardless of anyone else's intention in that circumstance, regardless of how that situation or circumstance might have initially been generated from a negative energy, you still have at every single moment the opportunity to completely neutralize that situation for yourself and determine that it is only positive for you so that you can get a positive beneficial effect from it. Please understand that everything we're telling you here is just simple physics. That's all this is. It's just vibrations, it's resonance, it's energy physics. That's all it is. It's very basic, it's very simple. Yes, we understand that creation is richly complex, but it's not complicated. At its core, it is very, very simple. So in our discussions back and forth, this day of your time in this transmission, please do your best to keep in mind that these are the tools that will help you sail through life and expand your consciousness and expand your experience in positive and beneficial, constructive and creative, loving and joyful ways, and allow yourself to gain whatever clarity it is important for you to gain to apply these tools cleanly, precisely, impeccably in your lives so that you can get the response, get the effect, and have the experience that you know in your heart of hearts would be reflective of who you know yourselves to truly be. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. Then, in return for the gift you are giving us, in allowing us to experience you this way, I ask in return, in what way may we now be of service to you with your questions and comments? You may begin. Well, let's say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. All right, thank you. Once again, we extend to each and every one of you our deepest appreciation and gratitude for the allowance of this transmission in this way at this time, and the opportunity to experience through all of you more facets of the multidimensional crystal of creation. We would like to begin this transmission, which is titled Dear Mom and Dad, with a little bit of an explanation as to what's going on with those beings that you call the hybrid children, which are the progeny of many of you, based on the experiences that people on your planet have recognized are going on in the encounters that many of you have had, are having, will have, with a group of other beings, most often referred to as the Greys, who, in order to perpetuate their culture, which was dying out, utilized, through agreements with you on a higher level, some of your genetic material, along with the genetic material of other beings, to create hybrid races such as ourselves and the Yael that we have referred to, in order to perpetuate their culture so they would not die out. However, there is also a group of the hybrids that are very much more specifically the idea of your children, who will ultimately be coming to Earth to live among you, to assist with the idea of the evolution that is going on your planet, that will ultimately lead to Earth becoming what we term the sixth hybrid race. Now, these children are of various ages and stages of development and understanding, and they have, for now, some time been training to understand the general cultures on your planet, which are to them very alien, and in order to fit in, have been learning some of the things that you take for granted, that are common to you, that you were raised to understand, that seem second nature to you, which they sometimes find a bit unfathomable. There will be, from time to time, some of these children that will come down to Earth. They will be practicing among you in secret to some degree, although sometimes they still stand out enough that now and then some of you may notice a glimpse of someone that seems a little unusual. But they are being assisted by a group of beings that we have not really referred to very often, that could loosely be called the fourth hybrid race. The idea is that they are watching out for them, they are guiding them, they are providing for them places on your planet that are relatively safe, where they can practice in quiet, in peace, most often in secret, the idea of how to live among you, how to live in your dwellings, how to do the things that you do naturally on your planet, or at least from learning. Things even like eating off a plate, using a fork, are alien to these children. Now, there will be different phases of these children that will eventually come down and live in certain kinds of enclaves, certain kinds of settings, again, in safe places, until such time as your society can get used to them and they can get used to your society, until eventually one day they can more openly walk among you and take part in your society. And as your society becomes more and more and more evolved into and toward the sixth hybrid race, then there being ultimately no real difference between you. Since the human race is first and foremost hybridized anyway, because of the connection of the ancient race called the Anu, which imparted their genetic material to you and created Homo sapien. And in moving forward and blending with other hybrid races and becoming more hybridized by having the markers within you, the genetic markers that have been dormant, being turned on more and more and more, and creating differences in your genetic DNA structure that allow you to express more of those abilities often associated with the hybrids, then eventually, in time, you will find that your civilization will be operating in a very different way, especially after the idea of open contact. But to begin with, we will mention that there are several phases of the hybrid children coming down. In total, for the overall first phase, there will be 333 hybrid children that will come to Earth in that first phase. Most of the first group of the 333 will be what you would call teenagers. They will get younger as the teenagers pave the way for the younger ones to come later, who will need more training and more time to acclimate to your society. But the ones that are now somewhere around your 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, sometimes even 18 years old will be the first among you, because they will have learned enough to then take their training further by actually living on the planet. There will still be time for acclimation. There will still be a need to get used to things. But by then, many of you, as the parents of the hybrid children, will be aiding and assisting them in learning their way into the new society that is developing on your planet. Now, many of you are still experiencing being taken up to the ships to aid and assist in this teaching now. It's just that in the future, when they live among you, the teaching will continue on the surface of your planet when they have learned enough. But the teenagers are far enough along that they can begin to fit in, although they still have questions and things that seem a bit confusing to them, which we would like to address now by relaying to you some of the things that they have said. And we will facilitate that information for you today. So, first and foremost, one would like to say, I have learned that in your world you have many different ways of talking. You call them languages. I have learned in the language that you call French that chat is a cat, but Chateaubriand has nothing to do with cats and has more to do with something you call steak. But I have learned that there are different kinds of steak. There is the steak you eat. There is the steak that is a pointed stick. There is the steak that is something you own a part of. Your language is confusing. It will take some time to understand how to know the difference. We have had it explained to us that the context will help in terms of where and how it is presented in a group of words. Nevertheless, we have also been taught that even among yourselves, you often get confused about your own language. Therefore, we're not going to worry so much that we will stand out, because some of you also stand out in your own culture. Another child would like to let many of you know the following. We deeply appreciate what you have done in bringing us into being. We deeply apologize on behalf of the race that may have caused you fear. It was never any intention on the part of any of us to be born out of fear, for we understand that you made this agreement on a different level from unconditional love, and we want you to know that we return that unconditional love to you for our existence, along with our deepest gratitude and appreciation. For we love our lives and live our lives to the fullest that we can, and will be very happy to one day share with you on your own planet the joy that we feel every day because you have given us life. So we thank you, Mom and Dad, for bringing us into being and for the future that we have set before us, that we know will contain many exciting things that we can share with you once we live among you. So thank you. Another child would like to pipe up and deliver the idea to you, the following concept. I'm not so sure about this idea of sitting down and eating all the time. That seems to happen on your planet. I get along fine with a few things here and there. Is this something that we will have to do all the time? Sit down and be eating? We have watched some of your television programs, and it seems that many people on them are also eating all the time. And we have seen that you have buildings that are specifically for the purpose of people going to eat all the time. And we have seen that you gather together as families to eat several times a day. And I am very concerned that I will be sick if I eat that much. So please do not worry if I come and you find that I am not eating as much as you, for I am eating exactly how I feel I need to eat, and the foods that I need to eat that make me feel good about myself. So I hope you will be okay if I do not eat with you all the time that you eat. And another child would like to chime in and say, I have noticed that there are many meadows and streams on your planet, and I have noticed that there are many trees, and I so do love the trees, and I hope I will get to spend time among the trees and among the meadows and among the streams and among the mountains and among many places that are open and many places that have many different kinds of animals on your planet, which I love. I have interacted with some of them, and I love many of them very, very much, so I hope I will get a chance to interact with many of them, and I hope I live in a place where there are many, many animals, and I hope you will walk with me through the woods and through the meadows and through the forests and allow us to interact with many of these animals, because they tell me many different kinds of stories, and they are very funny and they are very wise, and I think that you could learn a lot from them because I have learned a lot from them, and I hope we can learn a lot from them together. And another child would like to add a few notes. What is this thing you call jokes? We don't understand what these things are. They seem to use your language in ways that we don't understand. You tell each other these so-called jokes, and we see you laughing, but we don't understand why you're laughing at them. It's not that we don't laugh. We laugh a lot, but we don't understand that when you say these so-called joking things, that it makes people laugh. I understand that there may be an unexpected component within some of these jokes, but again, the idea of the joke is somewhat lost on me. So I hope there will be someone that can explain these things to me as I learn about your culture more deeply, because I would certainly appreciate laughing with you, and it would be nice to understand what the jokes are all about. Nevertheless, I will also be laughing myself, and I am already laughing at many of the things that I see you doing down there on your planet. Is that the joke? Maybe I get it and maybe I don't, but maybe you can teach me more about jokes. I am looking forward to that idea when I arrive on your world, so that would be fun. Now, what we can do briefly, if there are in this small special section any particular questions, whether your name has been drawn or not, that I wanted to say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. All right, thank you. First of all, once again, we thank you all. And individually as well, for the co-creation of this interaction, the allowance of this transmission, and the creation of a stronger link and a bridge between our respective realities. We would like to begin this transmission with a reminder that we have titled it Going Mad. Mass agreement dissociation. Now, what does this really mean? Obviously, when you have agreed to participate in this physical reality on your planet of Earth, you came in knowing that there would be certain parameters, certain rules, certain conditions, certain concepts and ideas that would be germane to the Earth plane, to the idea of having a physical incarnation in the Earth reality. And therefore you agreed to abide by those general rules, especially the ones that simply define on the most basic level what the reality experience is that you call physical. However, you know, as we have said many times, that physical reality is just a projection of consciousness. In a sense, as we have reminded you, you actually never really leave spirit. That's your natural state. But in a sense, while you are still in spirit, while the greater you is still in spirit, you are dreaming that you're not. That's what physical reality is. It's a focused dream in spirit that you're not in spirit anymore. But you are. You never leave it. Nevertheless, while you are experiencing that physical dream, you focus yourself, you limit yourself, you forget yourself, so that you can have the experience of remembering who you are from a new point of view. Remember that if you exist only in a timeless state, there is no opportunity for change, growth, discovery of a different perspective. So you create this focus called physical reality in order to be able to discover yourself from a new point of view, in order to change, in order to grow, in order to have a different idea of who and what you are as a being. And when you enter the idea of a mass consensus agreement, as we said, you will all agree that certain things will be common for most of you. But in this day and age of transformation on your planet, the things that used to be common for the majority, the vast majority of you, are now not necessarily needing to be as rigidly adhered to. You can begin to break away, you can begin to experience that the mass consensus is in some sense softening a bit. You can now begin to awaken to more remembrance and understanding that physical reality is just a dream. And most importantly, you can begin to realize that you can create the life you really prefer to have. Now, when we talk about the idea of dissociating from the mass consensus, please understand, we're not talking about breaking the laws or doing things to other people in any way, shape, or form that prevents them from doing what they need to do. This is not what we're referring to. The idea is to allow the synchronicity that begins to occur when you truly are in alignment with your true vibration, when you're following your excitement and living your passion, to allow the synchronicity that naturally results from that to demonstrate to you, to show you, to guide you as to what path actually works for you and everyone else, that will allow you to express yourself more fully and to become the person that you truly prefer to be in this day and age of transformation. So let us give a little bit of an example here of what we mean. Obviously, most of you are not going to let go of some of the very fundamental, the very basic mass agreement rules and conditions of playing the physical reality Earth game. For example, 99.99999999999999999% of you will most likely not give up on the idea that there is gravity. So please, when you understand the idea of dissociating from the mass consensus, it would not necessarily be wise for most of you to go walking off a cliff thinking that you're going to float, because most of you won't. Of course, unless you hit the bottom of the ravine, and then you'll float out of your body, if that's what you prefer. Nevertheless, while still adhering to many of the consensus agreement parameters of what it means to experience a physical reality on the Earth plane, there is a lot of leeway now as to how you can experience that and what you can do with those rules and regulations and how you can play within the overall game, your own game, more fully, more freely, with more fun, more freedom. This analogy, perhaps, can be best described by the game you know as chess or checkers, where you know that if you have decided to play chess, you're going to have to play by certain rules, or it's not the game of chess. So you will play on a chess board. You will use some kind of pieces that have certain kinds of moves that are laid out and described by the rules as to what the rules of chess are. However, there's a lot of freedom in those pieces. There's a lot of freedom in how you play, the strategies that you use, even what the pieces themselves may be. You can play with what you would call traditional chess pieces. You can decide, as long as the person you're playing with agrees with you, to play with coins, to play with jelly beans. It doesn't really matter, as long as you know what moves you are assigning to those pieces and what they represent to you. You can change what the pieces are to almost anything you would like them to be. So too in life, even while playing the game, is there a lot of freedom in exactly the piece you describe yourself to be, how you move on the board, what strategies you use to move through the game, how you experience those particular moments of interaction and outcome, really is left up to you. Play the game of chess you will, but there are an infinite number of ways to play, an infinite number of kinds of pieces you can play with, an infinite number of ways to describe yourself as a chess player, and what kind of game you are playing on that chess board as a chess game. So it's time to open up and be a little bit more free, or a lot more free, with how you see yourself within your relationship to the mass consensus, and how you also choose to define your individual agreements within the consensus agreement, so that you can experience